Hey, everybody, it's fight week, as Dana White says. UFC 235 coming out. It's the breakdown here on the LoudMouth MMA Podcast Network. I'm your co host, Max Friedman, trademark MMA and Twitter. I am joined by my illustrious co host all the way in Holland, 10 p.m., where he's at, Big Marcel Dorf. Happy Tuesday, Big Marcel. How you doing?
Doing well, man. How are you doing? Some lousy card coming out, right?
Big card on the docket,
Yeah.
and we'll get to that soon. But before we get there, the new UFC rankings were dropped this morning, and my co-host has quite a gripe to pick. Big Marcel, I'll let you have the floor. What happened?
So they put out of the rankings Lucy Pudilova because she fights now at flyweight, right? So there was an empty spot, and at number 15 came in Mayra Bueno Silva, who is a flyweight, but she came in bantamweight rankings, number 15.
One of
Right?
the many head scratchers we tend to see with these UFC rankings. But yeah, it was pretty comical. We were on a group chat talking about it this morning that Silva has fought only in the UFC at 125 pounds, yet she is in the rankings at 135 pounds.
Yeah, there are some more weird things on that ranking thing, but also GSP still ranked at pound for pound after he announced his retirement.
Another one. The man has a big press conference on was it on the Helwani show? No, it was on ESPN to announce his retirement, and yet he's still in the rankings within the UFC. That baffling.
Yeah.
But maybe that's a topic for another podcast another time.
Sure.
All right. Well, before we forget, don't forget to check out the LoudMouth MMA Podcast Network wherever you get your podcasts: iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. A lot of great shows on the network, including the Not Safe for Work MMA show with Kyle Steele and Fred Kirby. That guy is absolutely hilarious. Check that out. MMA Yesterday, looking at UFC events of years past. The DFS Express for those daily fantasy users. Interviews, fight companions, and our personal favorite, Around the Cage, MMA's version of ESPN's Around the Horn, hosted by our good friend of the show, Davidson Baker of Fan-Sided MMA and My MMA News. A really fun show. Yours truly took home the crown 2 weeks back, and my great co-host, Big Marcel, is on the docket for this evening. Big Marcel, you going to go bring home another win for the breakdown team?
Hell yeah.
Don't forget to check that out. Really fun show at week in and week out. But let's get down to business. We're here to talk UFC 235, and that's coming at you Saturday, March 2nd from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we got a championship doubleheader atop the bill. Let's take a look at our season standings. A big week for Marcel and UFC Prague, 9-4 overall, moving his record to 38-25 on the season starting in 2019. I had a less than stellar 7-6 evening. 42-31 overall, still hold the lead, but Big Marcel narrowing that gap. And in addition, did pick up a bonus win with Thiago Marreta Santos as well. So a good weekend for you. Big Marcel, you think you can make it 2 straight?
Told you, bro. I'm picking up. Slow starter. Getting after you, man. Told you. Not going to say it again, bro.
You're a notoriously slow starter, so maybe big things ahead for you. But let's go ahead and get it going. Saturday, March 2nd at the T-Mobile Event Center in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we'll start things off with the Fight Pass prelims in the women's strawweight division. Poliana Viana taking on Hannah Cifers. Viana is a -300 favorite, opened up at -400, so some money coming in on Cifers, who is now a +235 favorite, moving from originally at +300. Viana 10-2 overall, 1-1 in the UFC, coming off a loss to a surging JJ Aldrich, but more notably known for perhaps something outside the cage, beating up an attacker in Brazil. A male attacker tried to attempt to, I believe, rob Viana, and she did not have any of it. So made some headlines there. Hannah Cifers, 8-3 overall, coming off her UFC debut loss to Macy Barber. Decent showing in that one, though, and prior to that, she had won 5 straight. She's a little bit smaller. It does seem like she could make 105 if there was an atomweight division. Vegas seems to be favoring Viana. Big Marcel, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, it's actually a tough fight to pick, I think. I'm also favoring Viana in this one, honestly, probably because of I think Viana is pretty big in comparison to Hannah Cifers. Um, I don't think this will be. I think it will be a compatible fight. I think Hannah Cybers is very game. Poliana Viana didn't have a great fight against JJ Aldrich, but I have some expectations for her. Seeing this go to a decision and Viana getting the decision, but it will be close, and I wouldn't be surprised if Hannah Cybers got a decision. I think the odds are a pretty bit weird. I think it's much closer in real, I think. But yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, Viana seems to be the overarching favorite. I favor her to get a unanimous decision, but echoing what you said, Cypher's tough customer, not going to go out quietly, has a full camp this time as opposed to coming in on really short notice like she did UFC Denver. And after Polyana Viana performs on Saturday night, Big Marcel, are you going to continue to play matchmaker for her and Suman Mokhtarian?
I think Suman would think that's a good idea. No, man, that's all good.
Big Marcel over here, MMA's version of a dating app, linking fighters together. All right, moving along. We got a fight in 135-pound bantamweight division. Marlon Chito Vera taking on Frankie Saenz. I mean, say what you want about Chito Vera. He has drastically improved in the UFC, and he is coming off 2 impressive wins where he patiently found the finish. Saenz, 38 years old. He's 12-5 overall. He's 5-3 in the UFC, and you wouldn't think it, but he's actually on a 2-fight winning streak over Merab Dvalishvili and Henry Briones. Controversial they may be. He's had some impressive fights, but if you're asking me, I don't think he has too much left in the tank. I like the way Vera is putting things together. I think he uses a tactical approach and finds that TKO. But my co-host, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, man. I mean, Frankie Saenz, I have respect for the guy 100%, but he could have been on a 4-fight losing streak. I should have been on a 4-fight losing streak because that Merab fight was really bad. I think I had 30-27 for Merab in that fight. So he got the Henry Briones win. I think he did that pretty nicely. Chito Vera, like you said, 2-fight winning streak, improved from his fights. He had a tough time against Luigi Buren, but he picked it up in the second round, and he got it done. Last fight also pretty impressive against Guido Canetti in his hometown in Buenos Aires for Guido, and he took that win on hostile territory. I have to go with Chito here, man. I mean, the guy is improving every time when we see him in the cage, like you said, and I see Chito winning here probably by TKO late in the second or third, early third, late second.
Yeah, TKO for Chito Vera, and I forgot to call out the odds. He is a -225 favorite. Saenz a +180 underdog, so not getting too much love there from the odds makers. We head to 135 pounds on the women's side. Macy Chiasson taking on Gina Danger Mazzani. And Big Marcel, I'll open the floor with you.
Yeah, what can you say about Macy Chiasson, right? I mean, she won the Ultimate Fighter as what was she, 2-0 in MMA? Very impressive, I think. She beat some legit competition in Larissa Pacheco, Leah Letson, and then in the final real naked choke against Penny Kianzad. For this MMA fighter, taking on Gina Mazzani. Mazzani, not very impressed by her so far in the UFC. Got 1 win in three fights. She also did the Ultimate Fighter season 18 where she lost to Pena. Last fight very lackluster against Lena Landsberg. I think it was in Hamburg. Or was it in Liverpool? I don't know anymore. But wasn't a great fight back then. I have to go with Macy here. I think Macy will keep going in this division. Now it's at 135, right? She did the Ultimate Fighter on 145. She's big actually for 135, and yeah, gotta go with Macy here. Probably by a stoppage. I think TKO stoppage in the second round.
Yeah, all odds are going on to favor the New Orleans-based Macy Chiasson, who is training with the very hot Fortis MMA. -450 favorite, opened at -385, and just money continues to come in. Do we keep an eye on the weigh-ins come Saturday night? Do you believe Chiasson has a problem making that 135-pound limit? Like you said, she did compete at 145 on the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, I'd like to give her the benefit of the doubt, right? I mean, she's This is the first time she has to do the 135 in the UFC. So let's see what happens, right? I mean, the 145 division is it's lackluster, right? In the UFC, you have like 2 or 3 females who can make 145 or who are actually 145ers. So yeah, I hope for her she can make 135. And like I said, let's give her the benefit of the doubt, right?
Yeah. So Big Marcel's got Shayson with a TKO in the second round. I'll give Shayson with a submission in the second round. Gene Danger Mazzani 1 and 2 in the UFC. Job might be on the line here, in desperate need of a win, but man, tough matchmaking, tall order for her. Headlining the UFC Fight Pass prelim, Shayson's teammate Charles Byrd taking on Edmund Shabazian. This is a fight at middleweight. Shabazian, the -145 favorite. Byrd, the slight underdog at +115. An interesting bit of matchmaking here because both competitors are coming off a fight against the same opponent, Darren Stewart. Shabazian picked up a decision win. Byrd suffered a TKO loss in a fight that he was arguably winning. Byrd 1-1 in the UFC now. Shabazian had trouble with Stewart in that fight, but ultimately did propel his way to victory. Has heavy hands. He starts quick. We saw his win over Antonio Doomsday Jones on the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. But Byrd, man, he seems to be pretty methodical in there. He seems to have improved really well over the course of his UFC career and his Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series run in 2017. I'm going to favor the underdog here, either unanimous decision or submission. Big Marcel, how do you see the Fight Pass prelim headliner going?
Yeah, taking the fights I've seen from both guys in the back of my mind. I mean, Sebastian was very, how do you say that, gassed in the second and third round. So that what I remember against Darren Stewart, late second round and the whole third round. Charles Byrd, he looked great against Darren Stewart, but he got caught right in the second round, and he was winning before that, I think. And Charles Byrd, he's a good fighter, I think, pretty all-round guy. Sebastian. Yeah, knockout artist, had all his fights win by knockout before Darren Stewart fight where he won split decision. I'm also favoring Byrd in this one for this MMA guy coming out with the win again. TKO, not TKO, submission, second round.
So four fights on the UFC Fight Pass prelims, and we have the exact same picks. So let's keep this going and see. Maybe we'll open up some differences here, and we might have a little bit of a different one in this next bout. The big-time veteran Diego Nightmare Sanchez, winner of the Ultimate Fighter Season 1, and you know what? I can't keep up with his nicknames anymore. Nightmare, Lionheart, Dreamcatcher, The Dream. He takes on Mickey Gall, who is a -340 favorite. I can come back on Sanchez +280. That fight is going to be at 170 pounds in the welterweight division. Sanchez 3-3 in his last 6, but badly knocked out in all 3 of those losses. And there are a lot I've been calling for him to hang it up in years past and to avoid kind of future brain damage. But he is coming off a win in this one over Craig White. Gall 4-1 in the UFC. Coming off a real impressive win over George Sullivan. I believe he did this camp out in California, working very closely with Yves Edwards. Big Marcel, we know Mickey Gall has a dangerous submission game, developing skill set. Does he get it done against Diego Sanchez?
If Diego Sanchez comes in as he came in against Craig White, I don't see Mickey Gall winning this fight. I think Mickey Gall has to get it to the ground, but over there, I don't really think he has that much of an advantage over Diego Sanchez. Everybody thinks Diego is that rocket sock and robot guy, who came forward and wanted to throw, but he has a legit submission BJJ game, man. I mean, I remember when he started in the UFC, that was his go-to, and he still has that high level. We saw that in his Greg White fight. If he's aggressive, if he's on, Mickey Gall is in for a long night, and I'm going with Diego Sanchez by unanimous decision.
Well, so much for that, because I agree with everything you said. Sanchez has never been submitted in the UFC, and that's Gall's bread and butter. I mean, Gall has the chance to land a big shot on the feet, but I'm not sure that his development's quite there yet. And Sanchez, is going to push a hard 15 minutes. I think he wins a unanimous decision as well. +280 underdog cashing in this one. Let's go ahead and move along to men's bantamweights here. A couple of ranked competitors. Alejandro Diablito Perez, or actually Turbo now, sorry, dropped the old nickname, taking on Cody Stamann. Stamann number 12, Perez number 13 in the rankings. Stamann a minus 185 favorite. The comeback on Perez plus 160. Perez is a guy that seems to be under the radar and was deserving of a big fight. And this is actually a bigger fight than his originally scheduled opponent, Song Yudong. Perez, really good projection, it seems like, but Stamann is just extremely well-rounded and seems to be able to get it done against most competitors that are not ranked above him. And seems to be just might be the more well-rounded guy at this time when I look at it on paper. But Marcel, a really fun fight at 135 pounds. How does this one play out?
Yeah, man. I mean, Alejandro Perez, he has been solid so far in the UFC, but I've never been excited about his fights for some reason. I don't know why. Cody Stamann, he's very solid, very strong wrestling. Does he get? He only got submitted by that nasty silver stretch by Aljamain Sterling last time out. Cody Stamann, I think he's very fired up to get a win right here, and I see him getting a unanimous decision win by grinding out Alejandro Perez for 3 rounds. So yeah, that's my pick.
Yeah, I've been back and forth on this one, and I think Stamann's the more well-rounded guy, but he keeps this fight on the feet. Alejandro Perez mixes it up really well on the feet. If he avoids the takedown, I think he can get a chance to win here. And I'm going to go ahead and take the upset, Perez via split decision. But man, close fight on paper to call. Wouldn't be surprised if either one ends up with their hand raised come Saturday night. All right, a battle in the light heavyweight division, and it's a competitor that has the MMA world buzzing. Misha Cirkunov is the number 14 ranked UFC light heavyweight. He is a slight underdog at plus 100, opened up at plus 145, so money coming in on him, taking on the surging Brazilian Johnny Walker, a minus 130 favorite. Big Marcel, there's a lot of Johnny Walker hype coming into this one. How does he perform on Saturday night?
This is such a difficult fight to break down for the simple reason, what mindset do both fighters come in with the cage, you know? I mean, we all know Misha Cirkunov has some bad things going on with his wife and the private, how do you say, the private life, which is very unfortunate, and wish him all the strength and all the best to him and his wife, you know. He comes in there to fight to Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker, we all see what he has done before in the UFC. Very impressive so far. But Misha Cirkunov is a higher ranked opponent than the guys Johnny Walker fought before. But Misha Cirkunov can get cracked also in early seconds. We saw that against Volkan Ozdemir. So it's a very hard fight to pick. You can go with a first-round knockout for Johnny Walker, but you also can go with Misha on the ground who taps him or decisions him. And it's very hard to pick. But I don't know, man. I go with the guy who is on the street now, who is doing very well, who is having the hype behind him. I believe in his hype for some reason, and picking Johnny Walker by first-round knockout. But I'm not surprised if Cirkunov wins this one. I don't think the margin for the underdog and the favorite should be big at this at all.
Yeah, Walker 2-0 in the UFC. He's fresh off that quick stoppage in Fortaleza over Justin Ledet, and that's making it back-to-back TKO wins for him. Cirkunov, you mentioned it. He's had some growing pains in the UFC, but he's also coming off a win here. I've been 0-2 in picking against Johnny Walker thus far. I thought he was going to lose both of his UFC fights, but man, he's come out and he's performed. Cirkunov just seems like he might be a little bit better at this stage in the game, and I don't know, for some reason my initial instinct was that Cirkunov is going to either get a takedown or land on the feet, and ultimately the fight hits the mat to where he can get a submission. So I will go ahead and take the slight underdog, Cirkunov, via submission late in the first round. But man, another close fight on paper.
How are you going to feel if you pick 3 times against Walker?
Then, yeah, good question. I may have to not pick against him anymore if he continues to beat it. Headlining our prelim card on ESPN, we got a featherweight showcase that a lot of people are excited about. Number 6 ranked Jeremy Little Heathen Stevens. He's a big underdog, plus 205 against the number 13 ranked Zabit Magomed Sharipov, a minus 245 favorite. And man, a really hard fight to call here. I mean, Stevens, a guy who's knocking on the door of the title shot before getting stopped by the resurgent Jose Aldo. But meanwhile, the Zabit show, if you will, has been spectacular in the UFC thus far, but this is a huge step up in competition. 4-0 thus far, has not lost since 2013. Marcel, something's got to give here. Is this finally where Zabit meets his match in the UFC?
No. I mean, I don't know, man. I see many people saying like this is the first real test for Zabit. I think maybe in the UFC, right? But you can see on the way a guy fights what kind of technique he has, man. For example, Piotr Yan last Saturday, also a guy from Russia. He has a technique behind him that you see that it's high level, and that's also with Zabit. Only with Zabit, the problem sometimes is that he gets kind of bored by his opponents. I have the feeling sometimes, and then he gets like, yeah, what should I do? But Jeremy Stephens will get the best out of him, I think, because Jeremy Stephens will not let him get bored. And yeah, Zabit is going to win this one, probably by submission in the second or third round. And I think many people will pick Jeremy Stephens, but I'm going with Zabit by submission in the second or third round.
And you think he finishes him? Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
He does.
Okay. So that's a big take here from Big Marcel. The finish from Zabit Magomed Sharipov. I'm going to say Zabit also gets it done, unanimous decision, but Stevens can change the direction of the contest with one shot, and I'm excited to see how Zabit handles that power of Jeremy Stevens.
Me too.
Yeah. All right, well, the pay-per-view card has 5 really intriguing bouts, and we open it up with the bantamweight showcase between the former UFC bantamweight champion Cody Garbrandt, currently sitting at number 2 in the rankings. He is a minus 175 favorite against the number 9 ranked Pedro Munoz, plus 145 underdog. The former champ Garbrandt, as we know, coming off those 2 losses to champion TJ Dillashaw. Munoz, meanwhile, winner of 6 of 7. Lone loss was to John Dodson in that stretch, coming off back-to-back wins, including a finish over Brian Caraway last time out. Big Marcel, does Cody Garbrandt, the former UFC champion, is he find his way back to win column, or is he destined for a 3rd straight? Let the people know. How do you see this one going?
This one is a pretty easy breakdown for me, man. I think Pedro Munoz is a better guy on the ground. Garbrandt is a better guy stand-up. And Pedro Munoz always loved to stand and trade with people, and he doesn't have to do that with Garbrandt. So first round knockout for Cody here. I really think Pedro is going to go crazy, and he loves to fight, man. He's a game guy. He loves to fight. But you're not going to trade punches with Cody Garbrandt unless your name is TJ Dillashaw. And I don't think that would be a smart thing, and I think he's going to do that. So Cody Garbrandt, first round knockout.
Yeah, that's a solid analysis, and I've gone back and forth on this one too. Cody Garbrandt, you could really see when he fought TJ Dillashaw, it seemed like he was fighting with emotion, and he wasn't using that superior footwork. He wasn't that same guy that fought Dominic Cruz brilliantly, that finished to 5 straight bantamweight fights before getting that title fight. But man, I don't know. I just don't know where his head is at. I don't know where he is. It seems like he doesn't have that emotion coming into this fight. I mean, very nice and friendly at the press conference with Pedro Munoz last week. But Munoz, I don't know. You can't underestimate his striking either. I mean, the guy's no slouch on the feet. He does try to stand and trade. His most lethal weapon is that guillotine. And just something about it tells me that he's going to find a punch on the feet and then snatch that neck up before Garbrandt can even blink. So that's my pick. I'm going to take Munoz via submission in the 2nd round. But really exciting fight to open up the card. And, man, it could be a first-round knockout for Garbrandt. It could be a submission for Munoz, or it could be none of those things. But that's the best part of this sport. We let this thing play out. But hey, another difference on paper for us, Big Marcel. So at least we got something to look forward to there.
Definitely, man.
All right, we got some women's strawweight bout. That is the 2nd bout on the main card here. Tisha Torres, Tiny Tornado, the number 7 ranked women's strawweight, a slight underdog, plus 100. A lot of money coming in on her as she opened up at plus 150, taking on China's Weili Zhang, the number 15 ranked strawweight as of today, minus 130 favorite. Big Marcel, open it up. Tell the people how you see this one playing out.
This is actually a very tough fight to pick, considering Tisha Torres lost her last 2 fights, but she lost against top 3 opponents in Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Jessica Andrade. Weili Zhang, she looked very good against Jessica Aguilar. I still don't know how she didn't get a bonus in that fight, armbar first round. An okay debut against Danielle Taylor. She is on a huge winning streak right now. I think Tisha Torres is more kind of a point fighter, and I think Weili Zhang is more of a finisher, and that can be the decider here. If it goes 3 rounds or it goes late 3 rounds, I see Tisha Torres picking the unanimous decision win. But if I see it in the first or 2 rounds getting finished, it will be Weili Zhang, and I'm really feeling I have to pick the Chinese woman here, so I go with Weili Zhang in the first. No, let's see, in the second round, late second round, TKO finish, ground and pound.
Another hot take. You got Tisha Torres getting finished?
Yeah, man.
This is a competitor who's been in there with Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Jessica Andrade, and neither of them finished her. Carlos Barza and Thug Rose.
I know, man, but I really feel it's going to happen for some reason.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The style matchup.
I don't know. That's the surprise. I know we've gone up and down this card, but man, Big Marcel, not expecting you to pick a finish of from Weili Zhang over Tisha Torres. Hot take alert here. MMA DNA's Big Marcel. This is a good fight. This is really fun on paper. As you mentioned, Zhang 2-0, 18 straight overall, and it seems like she has a well-rounded game in the division. And one thing you mentioned that I don't necessarily agree with is that Weili Zhang, while she does have more finishes, I think she can actually win this fight in a point fighting method, because Tisha Torres is not the most aggressive fighter in there. She does point fight. I agree with that, but she's not the one to go around and really push the pace and I guess steal it on the judges' scorecards with aggression.
Can I add to that? I actually mean not per point fighting, but I mean she is not really a finisher. That's what I mean. You know, she knows to win her fights by unanimous decision mostly. She's not really a finisher. More of, and that's what I mean with a point fighter. Not that she absolutely want to win with points, but I mean that.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. But man, I was impressed with Weili Zhang. It's someone we've known about for a long time. I think this is her time to make a run in this division, and I just don't see the tiny tornado standing in her way in this one. So I'm going to take Zhang, unanimous decision here. But Tisha Torres, never an easy out, and I don't think there's any way she gets finished in this fight. So Big Marcel, maybe we make that a Twitter poll or something later this week. But how that fight ends up going, man, I was surprised to hear your thoughts there.
We will get back to that next week.
Okay.
And all right. I might say, I'm sorry, I was wrong.
All right, Big Marcel, we got the first of 3 very high-profile fights here, and the reason being we have a UFC fighter making his debut. Many fans didn't believe this would ever come to fruition, but here we are. Ben Askren, longly considered one of the best welterweights outside of the UFC, undefeated in his professional career. He is a minus 265 favorite against the former UFC welterweight champion Robbie Lawler, currently sitting at number 6, and he is a plus 225 underdog to the debuting Askren. I mean, finally, Askren is in the UFC, still unbeaten. It's time to see how he performs against some of the game's highest level competitors. And to be quite frank, he's facing a non-prime Robbie Lawler, but this is still probably the most incredibly tough test of his professional mixed martial arts career thus far. Big Marcel, we know Askren's game. It's a one-trick pony, and he is not afraid to tell the world that. We know Robbie Lawler slings heavy leather. He is extremely well-rounded, very experienced. What do the fans see come this fight on Saturday night, and why?
I thought it was cute when and nice from Ben Askren to said that Robbie Lawler was the most difficult fight in the division for him, because I think it's a pretty decent matchup for him in his UFC debut. I think Robbie Lawler, he has very heavy hands, like we all know, but we also see in his last fights that he cannot really get that level anymore that he had before. And I think Robbie Lawler, he's pretty all-round, but his ground game has never been very high level, in my opinion. And that's where Ben Askren is very high level. But so here, it's very easy. Can Ben Askren get Robbie Lawler to the ground? He will get him to the ground. So 3 rounds, 15 minutes, domination, Ben Askren, unanimous decision. It's that easy.
Yeah, you when you put it that way, now you got me thinking too much. But I'm gonna I'm gonna go with my gut instinct. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Askren do the Ben Askren thing and grind his way to a victory over Lawler. What I think might benefit Robbie Lawler in this fight is he has gone through this fight camp with Kamaru Usman, who is training for Tyron Woodley, and it feels like both of those guys can add a lot of value to each other in this fight camp. I think Robbie Lawler will be very well prepared for this fight. And Askren, we know he is a one-trick pony, and I don't think Askren's ever been hit the way Robbie Lawler's going to hit him on the feet. I mean, the guy doesn't get hit that often in mixed martial arts, and it just seems like this is going to be the time he's going to face that adversity. But man, this is something else. I'm on the edge of my seat right now just thinking about it. All right, Robbie Lawler, TKO round 2. I'm taking the upset here, but no confidence whatsoever. Just excited to see Funky Ben Askren in the UFC.
I'm lost for words.
All right, the first of our 2 championship fights, the co-main event of the evening. The UFC welterweight champion, reigning and defending, Tyron Woodley. He is a minus 185 favorite. He takes on the number 2 ranked competitor, Kamaru Usman, a plus 160 underdog coming out of Hard Knocks 365. Usman's a top contender, but on paper, I'm going to be honest, I don't see him winning this fight at all. Woodley has proven over and over he is the true champion. I mean, Usman, yes, he's 9-0 in the UFC, and I still think he can make a run toward the top. But Tyron Woodley, man, he's fought everybody, and he just continues to improve. And whether you hate his fighting style or not, the guy finds a way to get it done. And he has that T-Wood bomb power you know about. And I fully hope he puts on for the great city of St. Louis, Missouri, and the best baseball team in the world, the St. Louis Cardinals, come Saturday night. But I think Tyron Woodley knocks out Kamaru Usman in the second round. Big Marcel, what happens to the title, the welterweight division?
Tyron Woodley is the number 2 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in my opinion. So I already give it away what I think. Let's break it down. Wrestling. Tyron Woodley, Division 1 All-American wrestler. Kamaru Usman, Division 2 All-American wrestler. Kamaru Usman, wrestling is always his go-to game. He can do that against Woodley, in my opinion. Stand-up, Woodley's better than Usman, in my opinion. He had better opponents where he showed it against. Can always adapt how to fight against opponents. I mean, he stuffed 24 takedowns against Damian Maia. He beat Thompson, draw against Thompson. He knocked out Robbie Lawler in the first round. I mean, how can you still doubt this guy? I mean, it's crazy to me. And I definitely picking Tyron Woodley 100%. Nothing against Kamaru Usman. I think he's a great fighter, but he's not going to beat Tyron Woodley. Second round. Nah, you had second round, right? Third round TKO.
There you have it. Tyron Woodley, and still the UFC undisputed welterweight champion. Atop the card, we have another championship bout. Johnny Bones Jones, king of the UFC's light heavyweight division, currently a minus 850 favorite against the number 3 ranked challenger, Anthony Lionheart Smith, a plus 525 underdog. And I'm kind of surprised, Big Marcel. Jones opened up at minus 1150, and he's down to minus 850. Anthony Smith opened at plus 650, now at plus 525. Are bettors actually picking Anthony Smith to win this fight, or are they just riding those Vegas odds? let the people know what's going on in this fight and how it's going to play out.
With all respect to Anthony Smith, but they're riding the Vegas odds, or they just want John Jones to lose. I mean, if you look at a non-biased standpoint, where do you see Anthony Smith beating John Jones? I don't see it. I only think Anthony Smith's team and probably his family sees it. I really don't see it, man. And I mean, that's no disrespect to the guy. I respect Anthony Smith. He has built a legit streak at light heavyweight, but to fight John Jones, man, who is, in my opinion, the pound-for-pound king in the world, it's not happening. It's not happening, or Jones has to underestimate him, which not will happen. Jones said it before, and I believe him, he won't. John Jones, first round, TKO, and still.
Man, Smith, absolutely a tough guy, and he has a great story. He's been around for a long time. He's made a very smart career move going to 205, and now he's 3-0 in the division with 3 finishes. That being said, he is a massive underdog, and rightfully so. I mean, John Jones, say what you want about the steroids, he is the most talented mixed martial arts fighter on the face of the earth, and I really challenge anyone to argue any differently. Smith, I mean, has impressive finishes, but he is not ready for this challenge. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Just it doesn't seem like he is anywhere near the level of a challenge-worthy opponent. I truly believe in Mark Montoya and Factory X. I think they are one of the most up-and-coming top gyms on the show today. I 100%. Thought Montoya was snubbed for not being considered for Coach of the Year last year, but this is just too tall of an order. I mean, Anthony Smith against anyone else in the division, I'd give him a little bit more of a competitive advantage than he is here, but not John Jones. It's just not going to happen.
Let's be honest. Who do you see John Jones losing to at light heavyweight at this moment?
I don't see John Jones losing at light heavyweight at this moment at all.
Me neither. Me neither.
It's just I don't see it happening, and this fight's no different. If Smith does survive the first round, he won't survive a second. John Jones TKO in the second round, just from strikes from Mount, just piling up and putting Smith away. But Anthony Lionheart Smith, like you said, worthy of all the respect in the world, a talented fighter, a really good story, always willing to do everything for the media. Seems like a really stand-up guy outside the cage, very big family man. Nothing but respect for the title challenger. But this is an absolute tough matchup for him come Saturday night.
Definitely, man. I agree.
Okay, from some of that analysis turned a little dark there, Big Marcel. Let's go ahead and pick these things back up. Fight of the night. We got a lot of candidates here. Who's going to get that nod for fight of the night?
Oh man, fight of the night. Oh, that's a tough one, man. Going with a prelim here, I think. Let's go with Zabit against Jeremy Stevens.
Well, I looked up and down the card, and that was the one that stuck out to me the most as well, Zabit and Jeremy Stevens. I didn't think you were going to pick it because you picked Zabit to get the finish, but I think this is going to be an absolute war. Really looking forward to that ESPN featured prelim there. Now, performance of the night bonus is a little bit harder because we do know that main events and co-main events tend to get a little bit more love come that, especially with finishes. Now, Big Marcel, are the champions that retain their titles, assuming that happens, are those the 2 performance of the night bonuses, or do we know, or we got other people taking home those 50 Gs?
Let's see. John Jones, yes, probably. Tyron Woodley, probably not because Dana doesn't like him. Ben Askren, probably not because Dana doesn't like him. So we go with Cody Garbrandt and John Jones.
Big Marcel, just sound analysis right there, being all too real. All right, performance of the night bonuses for me. Man, this is tough. I am going to take Robbie Lawler and Pedro Munoz, 2 underdogs finding a way to get it done. Because, like you said, Dana White, not a big fan of Tyron Woodley, although I think he is going to have a highlight reel finish come Saturday night. And Johnny Bones Jones, just too much negative media around him. Even if he gets it done over Anthony Smith, he's a -850 favorite. So is that worthy of a performance of the night, winning a fight you're an over 8-1 favorite in? I don't know. I'll take Lawler and Munoz there.
Man,
moving along.
I mean, I always pick what I don't expect, right? Because the guys mostly who deserve a bonus don't get it. So
that's true. Good point. Yeah. I really wish it was as objective as it is, but we know, if anything, about mixed martial arts.
I always feel bad, honestly. If a guy in the prelim has a beautiful knockout or a beautiful submission, and he doesn't get the bonus, but they give it to the main and co-main event who make like 20 times more than the guy already, man. I mean, like, really, you have to give an extra 50K to that guy but that guy had a better finish actually, but he wasn't on the pay-per-view. I mean, that's just not matching with my thoughts, but that's just me, right?
No, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I'd love to see some of those Fight Pass prelim competitors, especially, get the recognition they deserve.
For example, Devontae Smith against Dong Young Ma last time was on pay-per-view after the last fight, and I really like that they did that, because they did that. But as Israel Adesanya against Rob Wilkinson, they did that as well. But back in the day, they did that much more. Like the early prelims and the prelims on the pay-per-view card if the fight was done quick. Now you get like 30 minutes of commercial and promos.
I love that too, when they take a previously recorded fight from that evening and play it in there when they have some TV time to air. I mean, there's no reason not to give some of these guys the exposure they deserve.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have one more pick to make for the evening, and that is the underdog pick. Man, this is also another tough one. I've toyed with a few different guys. Diego Sanchez came up, Pedro Munoz, but I am going to go with Fortis MMA's Charles Byrd to get it done in the Fight Pass featured prelim. I think Coach Saif Saud, Coach of the Year candidate, will have his guy ready and willing and prepared with a great game plan come Saturday night. Who's your underdog for the night?
I was thinking about that as well, but I'm going with Diego Sanchez.
Yeah, fun pick there too. Man, that should be a really fun matchup. Diego Sanchez, Mickey Gall. Who knows how that's going to play out? Yeah. But if it's anything like the last, few submission experts that Diego Sanchez has faced, he has fared well in those matchups.
Yes, I agree.
All right. So let's run down our picks real quick before we get out of here. Starting on the Fight Pass prelims, we got 4 fights, and both Marcel and I all have the same picks. We're taking Pauliana Viana, Chito Vera, Macy Chiasson, and Charles Byrd all to get it done. We are both picking the upset, Diego Sanchez over Mickey Gall. We have our first split of the evening in the bantamweight division. Big Marcel taking Cody Stamen. I'm taking the underdog, Alejandro Perez. I like that Diablito nickname better than Turbo, but that's just me.
Yeah, you're right.
We're also split on the next one. Johnny Walker, Big Marcel buying into the hype. I am taking the more established Misha Serkinov, although, like I mentioned, 0-2 of picking against Walker, so maybe that's just destined for another loss there. Headlining the ESPN prelims, we're both taking Zabit Magomed Sharipov to get past his toughest test of his career thus far in Jeremy Stevens. Then we head to the pay-per-view card. Former champ Cody Garbrandt. Big Marcel sees him getting back in the win column. I have Pedro Munoz taking him out, handing him his 3rd straight loss. Weili Zhang, we both agreed she will get it done in her fight against Tisha Torres. We are split on the next one. Big Marcel's got Ben Askren making a successful UFC debut, while I have him getting knocked out in a reality check that the UFC is not one championship. There is a far higher level of competition in the world's premier MMA organization. And then we both have the champions retaining their title, and still for both Tyron Woodley and John Bones Jones atop of the card. Big Marcel, any thoughts, feedback, anything you want to get out the world before we let the people know where we can find us and sign off?
I want to say, out of your thing, Keith, you're welcome for summing that all up, especially for you, man. We love you, man. What I want to say, enjoy the fights. I mean, stack card. What can you say else about it? Enjoy the card. It's a great fight. It's a great card. It has everything you want. Yeah, 2 championship fights. In my opinion, the 2 pound-for-pound fighters in the world, kings. I mean, besides Demetrius Johnson. But yeah, what do you want more? You have the debut of Ben Askren. You got some solid fights on the prelims, on the early prelims. I mean, enjoy the week. Enjoy fight week. That's all I can say.
Spoken like a true mixed martial arts passionate fan. Big Marcel, where are you watching the fight card? Are you watching it at home on pay-per-view?
No, I'm watching it actually with one of my MMA DNA guys, Michael. I live in Maastricht, which is in the south of the Netherlands. He lives in the middle, like around Amsterdam. So I have a 3-hour drive to get there, and we will watch with three or four other MMA DNA guys. So yeah, we will have a fun day, I think, and some gaming before, and some good eating, some good drinking, and watching the fights all together. So.
Man,
Yeah.
it's an MMA DNA party in Amsterdam this weekend. My invitation must have got lost in the mail for that one.
Hey, if you're near, you can always come by, man.
All right, but before we sign off, Big Marcel, MMA DNA, let the people know where they can find you and follow you.
MMADNA.nl, MMA DNA on Instagram, on Twitter, and you can follow me on Big Marcel24 on Twitter and Instagram. And like I always say, interact. I interact with you. Even with trolls, I love to interact as well. So let's go. Let's go.
The best owner of the best social media account in the game. That's Big Marcel24. You can find me on Twitter at Trademark MMA. My content is at Cage Side Press and the Body Lock. Got some new pieces I'm looking to outline, some more unique content over at the Body Lock. They're doing a great job. Really like all the direction that website is heading. So be sure to check that out. In addition to MMA DNA, of course. I want to thank our LoudMouth MMA podcast owners. That's Keith Schillen and Kyle Steele. Without them, none of this would be possible. And be sure to subscribe to the LoudMouth MMA podcast network and cheer on our breakdown co-host Big Marcel as he goes into battle on Around the Cage tonight, looking to make it bring that title back to the breakdown team. Big Marcel, you ready for that big showing tonight?
100%, man. Let's go. I'm always ready. Let's go. And I want to say, Body Lock, I'm super impressed with what you guys are doing, man. I mean, it's all over the internet. I see it on Twitter all the time. Very informative news articles, and yeah, man, keep it going. I'm really interested always to read it, and it's a really good team, good group you have there, man. Really.
Well, thank you, and shout out to Jake Nichols there, the team he's put together. Thanks, everyone, for joining today. Enjoy the fights. UFC 235 this Saturday. We'll be back to cover UFC Wichita come next week, so looking forward to it. Take care, everybody.